And we're going to be ready in a few seconds. So testing sound, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fabulous with Fabio. This is Fabio Marques, and my guest, fabulous today, is Christopher Salem. And you know, a lot of business owners and leaders have financial success, but they struggle with addiction of all kinds. This gentleman is able to free us from any kind of addiction because he has done it himself and achieve higher levels of health and wealth with everything online so he can experience a better life. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome my guest today, Christopher Salem. How are you, my friend?
Fabio, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you know, my audience here will be thrilled with everything you're going to share because we have managers, we have directors, we have business owners here, and we have people that really want some balance in between health and wealth. And I know you can help us achieve that goal, that dream, right?
Absolutely.
So listen, everybody watching, this is going to be also available to you guys in my YouTube channel, Fabio Marques 007, Fabio Marques 007. We have a talk show podcast there, Fabulous with Fabio. And also later, this is going to be available in our other podcast, Powerful Insights for Business, because I know we're going to hear some powerful insights here. And this interview is live, is raw, is authentic as life is. There's no editing later, no cutting, no post-production. This is the way life is. And I only bring to the show people that I know can handle this kind of situation because they are the real deal. So, Chris, are you ready to rock and roll, my friend?
I am so ready. Yes, I'm looking forward to this.
All right. So the first thing we want to share with our audience is how you became the fabulous person you are, you know, executive advisor and coach and professional speaker and entrepreneur, investor. Tell us a little bit about your journey, you know, and the main milestones of your journey until your present day.
Oh, thank you for that. And I always feel that when you can share your story, this is a great way how we can connect with people. People connect with real people. You know, if we project ourselves like we can do no wrong and everything goes right, and you're trying to create an image that if you had the life or the business that I have, you know, you would be successful and be happy too. Well, the reality is that's not real. We're all going to have our ups and downs. So, you know, it's just like, you know, like fine art, you know, or some kind of sculptures made out of clay. That's what my life was like. You know, when I grew up in a codependent home that was highly dysfunctional, that not to say at the least. And, you know, but even though I had two wonderful parents, I had a father, I had a mother, but, you know, my father wasn't really around when I was growing up. He was traveling. My father grew up very poor as a child, and his aspiration was to become very successful. So that meant he wanted to make money. But see, when you go to make money, there's sacrifices, and that sacrifice was his family. And thus, when I was growing up, my dad was really never around. So I was always looking for his validation and never got it. And then I had a mother who was a wonderful mother, but was also a perfectionist. And because she was a perfectionist, anytime when I didn't do something right or to her level of her expectation, she would fix it for me. So you could see that I became very dependent as a result of it. So did it help me? No. But nonetheless, you know, as I became an adult, you know, I began to deal with these things that I had been, you know, that I only knew. And I began to react to these situations as I became a teenager, an adult, and so on. And because I had this strong need for validation and I grew into a perfectionist like my mother, it was just nothing was ever good enough, either the way I looked at it or if other people were involved in doing something that would allow me to accomplish something. It never lived up to my expectation. And as a result of it, I was always operating from a place of anger. So even though I could have a smile on my face, I could, you know, look you in the eye and you would say, God, this guy's a nice guy. I was angry. And then you would know it eventually that behind that smile and that nice guy, there was someone who was very, very angry. And because of that anger, you know, it led me down a path, you know, occasionally of inappropriate behaviors and a bad attitude and falling out with certain people. And because of my anger, I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know how to deal with it. And, anything in healthy ways to deal with it. I'd never been taught that. So the only thing I could turn to was certain things like alcohol, drugs, sexual addiction. So I struggled with all three of those areas. Not to say that I was addicted to alcohol, drugs, maybe more of the sexual addiction than the other two, but it was an escape mechanism for me to medicate and help me relieve the tension and the anxiety of the anger that I was experiencing every day. So just like, like a volcano is going to erupt eventually with lava, is like what we happen with our emotions. And I just had a healthy way to deal with it and manage it. So this was the only way that I knew. And as a result of it, I just managed the problem. I didn't really solve it. Matter of fact, I just compounded it even further with what I was doing, acting out. And it caused a lot of friction with my relationships personally and in business, and really hindered my growth both personally and professionally, until I reached a turning point when that all began to turn around. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It took a good 2 or 3 years. And since then, that's 25 plus years later that I continue on that road, never missing a day to make sure that I operate on that path that I've been doing now for 25 years.
Before you review that turning point, I just want to highlight one thing that is very, very important. A lot of people go through life blaming their childhood, blaming their past, right? You realize as soon as you become an adult, right, you have the right and you have the obligation to get control over your own life, right? So you gain conscious enough. So yes, I can control what happened to me in the past. I can try to heal that. I can work towards the solution. I can work this out, right? So I want to highlight that because there's no use. It doesn't help anybody to keep blaming your parents or your past or whatever you went through, right? You must take responsibility and get things resolved, and you did that. So that would help a lot of people, I'm sure. So what was the turning point? What happened?
Well, here's the turning point. And, in the last few years of my life, or my dad's life, not my life, but last of my father's life, my dad tried to make amends with me because we never really had a really solid relationship, one that was of substance. I remember I had a back issue and I was in the hospital on and off for 6 months because I had an operation on my back. And my dad was finally there for the first time after all those years. And this was now in my mid-20s at the time. So I was not a kid anymore. I was an adult. So it was kind of like he was trying to make up for that lost time as a father when I was a boy, a teenager, and so on. And my dad showed some signs that he cared. But about 2 years after that, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and they had given him a year and a half to live. He was young. He was 56 years old, the same age that I am right now. And my father did not make a year and a half. He died in 4 months after that diagnosis. But it was the day before he passed away. It was just an epiphany. I was there at his bedside. It was just me and him. And I remember him looking over at me. He couldn't talk. He was on morphine, kind of trying to ease him out, ease the pain, just to pass peacefully. And he had his eyes halfway open, but he couldn't talk. But he was talking to me. I can't explain it to this day, but I could hear his words in a different way that wasn't through coming out of his mouth. Very strange to some people listening, and I can understand that, but this is the truth. And I can remember him sharing with me that, hey, I know I wasn't there for you like you wanted me to be. I did the best I could with what I knew. And, I just want to let you know that I love you. I love your brother because my brother had a lot of issues. He was divorced from my mother at the time, that he loved my mother. And he said, just be there for your mother, be there for your brother. And always know that I love you. And the hairs on my arms were up. And then something just hit me like, no matter what has happened to me, no matter what cards that have been dealt to you, and some people have been dealt some terrible, horrific things that have happened to them from birth to their childhoods. But no matter what has happened, you're always responsible for your life as an adult. And I have been the victim. I've been using excuses. I've been pointing the finger at everybody else. And I just knew this was the turning point. My father passing was the turning point for me to turn my life around. Because if I didn't, I was going to be him at the age of 56. Because I had bottled in all my emotions and stuffed it down like my father did, never showing emotion. And I'm a firm believer, his own demons, his own inner critic, his own, the ability to not express those emotions manifested itself into cancer in his body. And that's when that turning point started. I didn't know what I was going to do yet at this point, but I began to dabble in certain things that led me down a path that to this day, that not only shed me from my own self-limiting beliefs and helped me to reprogram the way I think, that impacted my behavior, my communication, my self-esteem, confidence, my decision-making, my risk-taking, and my ability to take action, my attitude, and so on. I never looked back, but that was the turning point. And I look back that my father gave me the greatest gift that any father could ever give, just in that one moment of time.
Yeah. You know, this is amazing. And again, people need to really pay attention to this story you're sharing with us. It doesn't matter how many mistakes people make. Be always open to realize the good things, right? Because one moment was enough to make a huge difference in your life, because you were open to listen, you were open to observe, to receive that. So many people get, they keep closing themselves and shutting them, and shutting themselves, because they're afraid of suffering, they're afraid of disappointment, they're afraid of whatever, right? But you have to be open to be able to realize moments like this as the turning points they are, and the blessings they represent to change our lives forever. So again, I want to stress that, because another very important lesson you're sharing with us today: be always open to the blessings that life can throw at you. Although life may be throwing a lot of curveballs and a lot of storms every now and then, we always have space for the blessings if we are open.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I always look at it, Fabio. It's not happening to you; it's happening for you. We can't grow and expand and appreciate our successes and wins without challenges, obstacles, or problems. If everything went right, we would just become complacent, bored, and then create problems anyway as human beings. So I embrace challenges. Matter of fact, I've had more challenges and obstacles in my life after those first 31 years, except the way I think and be and become and do things differently. I approach it in a positive way, and I see the opportunities disguised in it. So what I've become from it is far more when I reacted from it and I resisted it, and I reacted out of that anger that I did. Now I respond from a positive emotion or emotions and attitude.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. So after all that, and of course, you realize that you could control your life. You have responsibility for your own mindset and how you're going to approach things and deal with everything that was in your life. And then you became more and more aware of your power, of your strengths, right? And how you can do with your life if you're able to take responsibility and learn from everything that happened to you. And then you kept growing. And now you are in a position for long years now. You have been in a position to help leaders, business owners, right, sales professionals, to really reach the next level. And everybody talks about the next level, but what I perceive from getting to know you is that you are the real deal. You're really building the bridge to help people go from one stage to a higher level. And talk to us a little bit about how you do that. What are the kinds of services or how you help business owners, leaders, and sales professionals to reach that next level nowadays?
So great question. I mean, after this personal experience, and I've been in business for 33 years, or now 30, going on 34 years now, since 1990. I'm up there. I'm going to be 57 in July. But how I do it is I do everything from an inside out perspective. So when I look at a business owner or his or her business, if I'm doing them individually or the business, I approach both the individual and the business from the inside out. We first look at how the way they think. So how are they thinking? Are they thinking from, the inner critic or the inner champion? So it's helping them to recognize how to tap into their own emotional intelligence, to learn how to manage their emotions in a positive way rather than react to them. So by understanding your own emotions, you can now be able to respond versus react to other situations and other people that you can't control in a more productive, efficient manner, and establishing safe boundaries. And when we're able to work on the mindset to learn how to operate from intentions rather than expectations, because intentions we can control in the moment. Fear is reduced in the moment. Expectations are in the past and the future, and they're triggered by fear. We can't control other situations and people in that space. So there's nothing can be really accomplished. So when we can learn to shift our thinking into the moment from intentions rather than the past and the future from expectations, we can trust the process that will lead us to the results we seek, to what we can control. And we can control our communication to ourselves and others, our behavior, our attitude, our emotions, and how we respond versus react, and our action. I can't control those same 5 things in other people or situations. So when I help them to change that way of thinking, how to really align with their core values that are true to them, not to somebody else, then it can display itself and show how they can relate from those values and from that different way of thinking with other people that through their example and resourcefulness will help them to do the same. So it creates a positive ripple effect in their business or workplace to become more interdependent rather than codependent. So when I work with an individual, I help them to do that, to work on their business, not in it, how to delegate, how to value time, to manage it more effectively, to grow their business. I help them to learn how to use that to share their story, to become an influencer, to go down speaking stages. Because I've been a professional speaker for 23 years. I've been speaking at leading industry B2B, B2C conferences and companies worldwide. How to share that story and build that connection through those values that you're helping people to help their challenges to be better and help them to seek the results they seek that they don't have. So I help them to do that. And then when I'm working with an organization, it's the same. I'm working on changing the way people think and communicate, lead by example. So when we can create a winning team environment where we have everybody understands each other's role and duties and abides by their team agreements, we can create an interdependent work environment, not a codependent one, to create a higher level of efficiency for productivity. And from that, create more valuable customer experiences that lead to higher customer retention, higher revenue, and thus higher profit. And then there's another thing I get involved in, and I help them with revenue and profit strategies and helping them to craft the right market dominating position messages that will align with their clients' challenges to be better and the results they seek. So anything they build on top of that with their lead gen will convert more leads into customers as a result of it.
Perfect. I love every
But EQ is the foundation of all that. Everything we talked about up to this point, it starts with that emotional intelligence.
Yeah. I really, I want to go back to the distinction between intention and expectation.
Yeah.
Because I really believe, everything I do as well, when I'm, as a speaker or a consultant, I also like to stress to my clients, listen, if you have expectations of how people will behave or what they're going to say, you can either be satisfied or disappointed, right?
Yeah.
But if you have intention, you are leading the meeting to a better place, right? You plan with intention, you communicate with intention. And what kind of intention? Intention to understand before I can offer anything. Intention to really learn before I can try to sell anything. Intention to be truthful, to be authentic, right? So I would like you to share with us some examples of going to a meeting or going to deliver a speech to your employees with intention versus expectations.
Yeah. So if I go in there with an expectation that I got to talk about this, and this is the type of outcome I'm looking for. Now, what I'm doing is I'm placing most of my energy in control into the control I can't control. That is other people in the situation. But what I can do is if I lead from intention, that my intention is to connect and share value to help my audience do this, and this. I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm only focused on my energy on what I can control. How can I communicate in an assertive versus a passive aggressive way? Making sure my behavior in when I'm speaking or interacting with them is in alignment with that communication. It's assertive, not passive aggressive. My attitude that I see whatever happens, it's happening for me, not to me. And my emotions, if something where somebody doesn't like what they hear, okay, I can now pause, ask a question, and now respond versus react to whatever happens instead of reacting from it. And then I take action. So for me, what intentions allows you to do is allows you to focus on those 5 things because I can control that and apply that to any project or initiative or anything I'm working on rather than now from expectations now that where I'm putting more of the emphasis on the situation itself and people that I can't control. So it's reframing the way you think
Yeah.
when you look at those situations.
And there's another distinction I want to emphasize: assertive versus passive aggressive. Help us get clear on that again.
So yeah, so when people are passive, and I'm a recovering passive aggressive, passive people tend to be yes people. And they'll say yes to everything. They will forgo their own agendas for other people. Now, why do yes people do that? Well, remember I said earlier I didn't get validation from my father when I was growing up. So I went out of my way to please people and enable them for the sake that they would validate me. Oftentimes it was never good enough. I never lived up to their expectations, and they ended up not liking certain things that I did, and then it would just make me feel even worse and mad and angry because I didn't get the validation anyway that I was looking for after I sacrificed everything I was going to do. And when you're aggressive, we tend to be we could either talk down to people or we tend to micromanage people. We have a hard time delegating. We don't trust other people can do things to our level. And the thing is, the reality is, if you want to scale and grow a business or even grow in your career, you can't do it without delegating properly. It's just show me a person who can do that. I'll be the first to admit that I'm wrong, but I don't see it. But I mean, some people will claim that, but then when you really do a deep dive, you'll find out, they did do some delegation. They just didn't realize. But with that being said, that's what passive aggressive is. And assertiveness, a lot of times people think is like aggressiveness, and it's not. It's the ability to be specific, clear, and concise with yourself and then with another person or people. So if I could be specific, clear, and concise with me, how I communicate to myself, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. I can operate from my values. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I'm not good at. I can now connect with another human or people, and they get the sense I'm real. I'm not phony, or I'm not like I think I know everything. So with this being said, I can now connect. And no matter if I'm the sender or the receiver of the communication, it's my responsibility to be specific, clear, and concise because I can't control another person and knowing that they're going to do the same. And by doing that, I then reduce the tendency for assumption and speculation, which is the catalyst for all communication problems that lead to these expectations going awry and causing partnerships to dissolve, marriages to dissolve, people to be at each other's throats, because it's all based on assumption and speculation. Assertiveness reduces that to the very minimum and improves a lot of different situations.
Agree 100%, my friend. And thank you for clarifying, because,
Sure.
a lot of people, they think they know what words mean, but we need to make sure we are on the same page, right? Confucius said, wisdom starts with definition of terms. So let's define the terms we're talking about. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
I want now that if you can share with us your vision for the future. You've been working so hard for so many years, helping business owners, leaders, and so on. how would you like the world to be 5 years from now? If let's assume everybody on the planet could follow your advices, right? And how would the world be? How could you imagine the world be if
Well,
you listen to you?
I don't know if the powers that to be would like my philosophy. They might want to get rid of me. But with that being said, I would love to see the world in an interdependent versus a codependent way. We've been conditioned since the dawn of time to be dependent on others and people. And it keeps people down. I'm all about let's own our own lives. It's nice when two people can come together and complement one another, but not depend on each other. My wife and I love each other immensely, but we're not dependent on each other. We complement one another. Who do I have to love first in order to love her better? Me. I cannot not love myself and then love her, because now I'm going to be either codependent or I'm going to end up being too controlling with her because I don't trust her. And then because I don't I don't like myself. That's not healthy. And it's the same thing in business relationships and with customers and so on. So I would love to see a world where people can free themselves from their self-limiting beliefs, own their lives, stop managing the problem, stop looking for the solution in a box. It's all inside of you. And if you can just learn to trust the process, is it easy? No. But if you can go within and learn to let go of the things that you've been led to believe that are holding you back so you can rise up to the potential that you're capable of, we can all come together just like a winning team to complement each other. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration. Doesn't mean we can have some friendly competition through a soccer game, a football game, a baseball game, but it's not that I'm here to win and I'm here to eliminate you in this business. No, there's plenty of business for all of us, but finding ways we can work together to complement one another and become now we're self-reliant on ourselves, but sharing that and being resourceful to help each other. That would be my legacy. That would be my vision, to leave this planet with a world that can be like that.
It's beautiful. It's inspiring. And I want to add to that if I can. As you're saying, many people say you have to live a life of service, and they misunderstand that. Many people say, well, a life of service means I have to put others first, right? And I have to serve them, and I have to be available to serve other people. But as you're saying, if I don't love myself, if I don't respect myself, it's impossible for me to serve others properly without transferring the burden to them, right? Because if I depend on them to feel happy, to feel accepted, to feel approved, right? I'm transferring to them the weight of my life. So I need to own my own life and love myself and respect myself enough so I can share my love with other people, and I can be interdependent and complement each other, right? Without transferring the burden of my happiness to other human beings. So I really like what you said, and that would be really ideal. The best way to serve another human being is when you have enough to share. So have enough love for yourself, enough respect for yourself, enough competence in yourself so you can really serve with excellence and add value without transferring the burden of your happiness to somebody else. Does that make sense?
That makes sense completely.
All right, man. Well, now I'm curious about your inner talk, right? Because I've been studying the science of success since I was 11 years old, and I realized there are 5 elements that help people be truly successful. And studying our material, I know you go to the root cause a lot, right? A lot of people just treat the problem, and you are all in to treat the root cause of the problem, because then you really solve the thing, right? And by studying these elements of truly successful people, I realized that first, people have this strong identity, right? They are themselves. They are the original, the real thing. They are authentic. They learn from other people, but they remain themselves, right? So it's the number one thing. Be yourself, respect yourself, love yourself, and grow within yourself, and find the answers within yourself as well. Number one, and you addressed that already. Number two is having a vision. What do you want from life? Who do you want to become? What do you want to achieve, right? What is the legacy you want to leave behind? And those things, you already showed that you have those. But also the third element that people, really successful people have, they have this inner communication. They're very effective communicating with themselves, right? And communicating with other people. So now we're going to cover this communication thing. And then we're going to go to the other two that I'm going to share later. But tell us, when you're facing obstacles and challenges, right? What is the inner dialogue you have with yourself that helps you go, forward and deal with all those circumstances?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, this is an ongoing process. Even though I shed my self-limiting beliefs many years ago, I still have to I do a daily routine every day from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. I have a routine from, getting up at 4, making my bed, meditating, journaling, to working out, to reading a chapter or two out of a book, and then reviewing my goals. All of these have helped me to learn how to shift my thinking from past and future to present, from intentions rather than expectations, so on. With that being said, I still got to remind myself in every situation, whether if somebody cuts me off in traffic, if somebody misses a meeting that was very important and I was counting on, again, if I were operating from expectations, oh boy, not good. So I have to remind myself, I have to say in any of those situations where there's a trigger, what can I control? What can I not control? And what I control, my communication, behavior, attitude, emotions, and action. I can't control that in other people. So when I do that, that feeling, that trigger loses its power to kind of bring me into the control I can't control, so I can stay within the control. And I have to say, I trust the process. This important meeting that I was supposed to have that didn't happen now because the person didn't show up, I got to let it go. Just trusting that something good is going to happen regardless from it. And I know it's kind of hard to believe that at the moment, but it's trusting that process that it will. And when you look back in hindsight, a lot of these things, it all works out. And even better things open up when you trust the process. Because what is the sense of worrying and stressing and having anxiety over something you can't control anyway? I know it's easy to say and do as another, because that's how I operate. That's why I had a problem with addiction, because that was the only way I can medicate to escape the anxiety.
Yeah.
But we can learn to change our thinking so we respond to these situations in a healthy, productive way rather than react from a place of worry, stress, and anxiety.
I like that. And that happened to me. What you're saying happened to me several times when, like, an important client didn't show up for a meeting, and I just trusted the process. This is something actually good, because now, if I continue to treat that client nicely, right? Now he feels like he owes me something, because he was the one that didn't show up for the meeting. I was there, I was ready. And many times I drove like 2 hours to be there, and I had to drive 2 hours back, and I was there. He didn't show up, but now he owes me, right? And many times I closed better deals faster because a client didn't show up for a meeting. Because the next meeting, he felt like, oh my God, this guy is so this guy is so nice. I failed him, and he's still treating me with so much elegance and professionalism. So he felt like obligated to close the deal with me after he didn't show up for the previous meeting. So if you trust the process, as you're saying, and you really focus on what you can control, and it is your attitude, your behavior, your emotions, this is great, man. And, so everybody watching, pay very close attention to this. This is not a regular interview, ladies and gentlemen. We are having here the opportunity of learning very key, important points that can change your lives forever and unblock, our growth and break down the barriers that may be holding us back. So pay attention. Very good. Very good. So this is your inner dialogue. And how would you talk to people? Now I'm going to give you a challenge, okay? I'm going to give you a challenge. Are you ready for a challenge?
I'm ready.
All right, I'll give you a challenge. So let's say you are in a very big convention, and you're going to give 3 speeches in a row. 3 speeches in a row. One is for sales professionals. Another one is for executives. And another one is for business owners. Okay? So you're so good as a speaker that they hired you for 3 keynote speeches in the same convention.
It's funny that you're saying this, because this just happened yesterday. I'm speaking at an event next week at the Indianapolis Convention Center, They just called me and said this one of the speakers can't make it. Can you speak on his topic? And we will pay you twice the amount. And I said, and I looked at it I said, as long as it's not data, cybersecurity or something like that, I can do it. And sure enough, but yeah, go ahead. But this is touching home. It's real to me right now.
See, I don't know. I'm telepathic, maybe. I don't know. Well, anyway, so you are in this big convention, and they prepare 3 separate rooms for you, right? Yeah. One is going to be 1,000 people and sales professionals. The other one, 1,000 people executives, and the other one, 1,000 people business owners, right? So I want you to share with us what would be your first opening statement in each one of those rooms, okay? So that first sentence he would say to grab that audience attention, to make them really stop everything else they're thinking and be mindful and present at that very moment. So for sales profession, what would be your opening statement?
I would say, if this is more business related, I would say, what if your sales numbers told a different story? A story of compounding sales and growth in your territory. What would that mean to you? Something along those lines. And I would use something very similar with you said executives and then business owners.
Yes, executives.
I use something very similar. Like in this case, I would just say, what if your business numbers told a different story? A story of compounding growth in revenue and profit. What would you do different? How would you show up? And then have some interaction from the audience.
And that's great because you're opening a speech, making them think about themselves, right? Yeah. And I like that a lot. And that shows me what kind of person you are with your clients, because a lot of speakers would maybe start saying something about themselves, right? Try to drive attention to their credibility or something. And you, as I would do as well, are focused on what is the benefit for them? How would their life change if they could address things a little differently, right?
Yes.
And that tells me a lot why you're so successful, because the most successful human beings on earth, they're always concerned about adding value to other human beings.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they don't like themselves. On the contrary, they're so self-confident that they don't need to self-promote every single time.
Well, there you just said it. Like, I mean, 25 years ago, I would have absolutely like shuck it out of you. I needed your validation. I don't need to be, I don't need to be validated anymore. Matter of fact, I don't even need to validate myself anymore. I look at everything for what it is and I give my best. Sometimes I might be off and I'm human and it's okay. It's okay.
That's freedom. That's freedom.
Yes.
So many people out there just working like crazy, trying to become richer so they feel free, right? Oh, when I have enough money, I can do whatever I want. When I have this status, I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. You can be free now. If you just, detach yourself from this need for validation, you can be free now, right?
Yeah, you got it.
It's
all a matter of priorities. If your priorities are to have like some, huge house and, $100,000 car, and I don't know about you, I don't want liabilities or depreciating. I'm looking for things that I want experiences, because when I leave this planet, I'm not leaving, chugging home a house behind me or bringing some car with me. I'm not saying those things aren't great and you can have fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to minimize that. They're all byproducts of that freedom, but it's really the experiences that matter. And those are everlasting. They'll last forever, even far beyond when you leave this world.
And, I have a theory that everybody that has a family or some friends will look one of those people in the eye when we are about to leave, right? So we're gonna look, like your father looked in your eyes, right? So I'm gonna look into my eyes of my daughter or a friend, whatever, when I'm about to leave. And when we are rich in experiences, right? We have that sparkle in our eyes, even in the last second. We have that flame that we lived, right? We had those experiences. And this is so valuable. This is the best legacy you can leave to somebody looking into your eyes and in your last breath, that life is wonderful. Go live it, right? So I really like what you're saying about the experience, because I believe the same thing. We have to live the experience. We have to be there. We have to be in the present moment. We have to really be intense, right, in how we are living our days. And all the other stuff may be fun, but they're not the core that will make us happy.
So true. So true.
Beautiful. So now, listen, we've been through so many lessons here, but now I'm going to focus on the fourth element of very successful people, which is the lessons we learn, right? Very successful people are always learning. They're always learners. They never get to a point where they say, I know enough, right? We're always learning. So I want you to share with us 2 or 3 key lessons that you have learned from coaches, mentors, professors, teachers, parents, whatever, from life. 2 or 3 key lessons you have learned that really changed the way you look at life.
One thing I've learned is that, life isn't is not a cookie cutter process. And while there are certain methodologies, modalities, and processes that might be like, hey, that could help a lot of us, doesn't mean it's always going to yield the same results. It's taking something from it and then making it your own to now do it. So I always like to tell people and share with people, stay in your lane. Don't try to become somebody that you're not, or just because that worked for them verbatim doesn't mean it's going to work for you verbatim. Take what works from that, use it as a guide, and then look to see what else that you can implement that can get you to where you want to go, and staying in your lane to do the things that are going to create more impact in the world. That's one of the things I've learned, because I was always trying to become somebody I wasn't early on in my life, and always hit a wall with it every time. And another one is, again, you got to trust the process. Not everything that we desire to accomplish is going to happen on your time, but just knowing when you can focus. Think of it like a puzzle. Life, I always look at life, I always use the analogy, life is like a puzzle. You gotta, if you're going to achieve this certain thing, and think of it like if it's a 100-piece puzzle you're going to complete. You got 12 pieces and you got 88 that you don't have in your possession. Now, if I get caught up in the 88 pieces I don't have, that ain't not going to serve me. I got to focus on the 12 I do, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to trust the process that the other pieces that I have to complete this will happen. And if I can learn and appreciate and be grateful for every step of that process of what I can learn to think differently, to be it, to become it, and do it differently, then I become much more valuable to myself, and then I can be a better example and a resource, whether if I'm doing it from a mentor, being a father role, a husband role, a brother role, or whatever. I can now be a better example and a resource for others to do for themselves. That's a valuable lesson that I learned. Those are like two or three right there that come to mind that have.
No, I love them. I love them. And, and again, just to reinforce the point here, the first lesson, right? Don't try to be somebody you're not. Dig into yourself, find out who you are truly, right? And be respectful of that. Even if somebody you love try to force you to be somebody else, because that happens a lot, right? So many people pretend to be somebody they're not just to please the one they love.
Exactly.
And that's a very serious mistake, because once you disrespect who you are and try to be somebody else just to please somebody else, that somebody you're trying to please will lose interest in you.
Well, exactly. Because when it's all said and done, here's why I look at it, Fabio. Not to say when you leave this planet, you're going to be forgotten and nobody's going to ever talk about you again or think about you again. But the reality is, think about it. Somebody passes on, you go to their funeral. We all get there to, celebrate your life. We might be mourning, especially if it's a loved one or somebody close. Then 2 weeks go by, things get a little better. 3 months go by, things are a lot better. And then within a year, you're not even in the conversation, maybe once or twice, if lucky, throughout the year. So So the thing is, it's not, why do we spend all of our lives trying to please others when we should be doing for ourselves? I'm not saying be selfish and just keep it to yourself, but serve yourself so you could be an example for others to do the same. And do things that are going to make you happy, and not to be defined by somebody says, well, to be successful, you have to do this. That's how my dad was taught to believe, and what he tried to instill in me. And that wasn't who I was. And thank God I got more of that from my mother. And so to me, success is in the eye of the beholder. So I go out of my way to serve myself. And so I can be now a better example and a resource for my son, my wife, my brother, my mother, my family, my clients, the industries I serve as a speaker, whatever. That's it. And that's the greatest gift that I feel that you could give to anybody, is to help them help themselves.
I like that. No, we can choose to be an inspiration or a martyr, right?
Yeah.
And it's better to be an inspiration.
Exactly.
It's more attached to life than to suffering. I like that. Well, finally, the fifth element of very successful people is the grit, the tenacity, the persistence, right? The drive to make things happen, to take action. So I would like you to suggest to our audience some action steps they could take today, if possible, to have better results from now on.
Sure, yeah.
And maybe, of course, let's say the final step, or you're going to share with us, would be how they can get in contact with you if they want to know
Sure,
more
absolutely.
about your work, what you do, and how you can help them. Okay.
Absolutely. So I would say that, the first thing to do is to see, what are the things that are, where are you and where you desire to be? And what do you feel is the emotion or emotions that you're experiencing more frequently, especially if they're negative, like anger was for me, that you're operating from? If it's more the negative emotions, then more likely there is self-imposed limiting beliefs that are at a subconscious level holding you back. Now, you're not going to find out what these are immediately, but just start there and ask yourself, commit yourself to say, I'm going to go through a process to learn how to be more present, not in the past and the future. So I can start doing that by developing a daily routine. Start getting up at a certain time. Start maybe meditating or praying. And when you don't force it, I had ADHD. I forgot to mention that. I was born with ADHD. So for someone to meditate with ADHD is a daunting task. And for the first 9 months, I had to white knuckle it because I could not sit still. But I did it anyway. I used discipline and consistency to do it. Start with one thing. Start to just meditate for 1 month. Do it for 30 days, regardless if you feel anything or not. And when you do it, keep doing it, and then add another thing and do that for 30 days. And then after you do that, use discipline. Don't wait for motivation. It won't happen. Just do it. Use discipline. Be consistent. Then add another. After 6 months, you'll have 6 new habits that you can be now developing a routine that will change your way of thinking to help you now become more present from intentions. And then when you're in the present moment, your subconscious mind begins to unveil what are the things subconsciously that could be holding you back. That's how I found out I had a strong need for validation. That's how I found out I was a perfectionist. I didn't need someone to tell me that. But with that being said, start there. If you try to do everything all at once, you're going to set yourself up for failure. Start with one habit and develop that. Do that for 30 days. And just ask yourself, where am I? Where do I desire to go? What is the emotion or emotions that I'm operating from most frequently? Get with that and start to resolve the problem first. And then from there, you can start creating a solution. Otherwise, you're just going to manage the problem if you're trying to accomplish goals on top of the things that are, think of it like you're trying to move forward, but something's trying to pull you back. And it's just this, you're just constantly, you're stuck. Resolve the root. I wrote a book in this area, Master Your Inner Critic, resolve the root cause, create prosperity. And when you can do that, and again, the timelines are different for different people. I can't tell you it's going to take you a few months, 6 months, 3 years, 5 years. It really depends on you. But discipline and consistency will never fail you. If you rely upon motivation, you'll be trying to fix this for the rest of your life and get nowhere. Motivation is fleeting. It doesn't work. It's discipline, and consistency. You do it, even though you don't want to do it, you do it anyway. And
Yeah,
you just,
I like to think like motivation is the motive to take action, right? It's the beginning,
yep,
but it's discipline and consistency that keeps you on the right track.
it keeps
So
you going. Yeah. The motivation will eventually come more frequent from the discipline and consistency.
yes.
If you try to start with the motivation, it'll never happen. Or even if you get that little umph to start, that's where people have New Year's resolutions where they don't work. They'll start and then they'll stop within a couple of weeks when something happens. Because if something is going to happen, life is going to happen. There's going to be a distraction, and if you will allow it to own you, it will. But if you have discipline, consistency, and put up boundaries, you will now not allow that to intervene, and you will stay on track to change the way you think, to be, to become, to do, and have different results. Operate from those core values that are true to you, to communicate at a higher level with other people so they relate and understand, and vice versa with them. That's where things start to really change in your life and in your business from there.
Yeah, for me, it works when I use my purpose, my values as my motive to action, my motivation, my initial motivation. And then right after I start, I attach that to discipline and persistence. So I keep doing things and I don't allow the routine or life to swallow me, right, back to the old habits. So it's motivation to start, but motivation based on principles, value, purpose. And then right there, I attach the discipline. So I keep doing things until they become a habit, as you're saying. So awesome. Listen, if people want to get in contact with you, we need to do this. And everybody watching, of course, under the video, you're going to see in the description, you're going to see all the links to Chris' website, LinkedIn profile, whatever he wants to share here is going to be under the video here in YouTube, okay? So please share with us verbally as well. If they want to reach you, talk to you,
absolutely,
how should they proceed?
Well, there's a few ways you can get in we can get in contact with one. I just love to get to know people. There's no obligation. It's all about getting to know each other. You can reach me on my email at chris@christophersalem.com, LinkedIn at Christopher Salem. If you'd like to talk about things on a more personal, maybe professional level, you could reach out to me at christophersalem.com. And if you'd like to connect more on the business side with accelerating strategies to increase revenue and profit margin in your business, sell your business, to really revamp your workforce, to really raise the bar for production and create more valuable customer experiences, sustainablesuccess.net is the website for that. And yeah, just welcome an opportunity to connect and get to know you and what's important to you and what are your challenges that could be better and what are the results you seek that you have, and happy to steer you in the right direction.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for you guys watching, that's how we met, me and Chris, right? We were just connecting. We were curious about each other. We're open to learn new things. And I believe this is one of the many things we're going to do together, Chris, to make this world a better place. I really admire you. I respect you. And I'm very grateful for you being in the show. I want to thank you once again and give you the final opportunity to give a final message that will resonate.
Well, first of all, Fabio, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me on this wonderful show to showcase this transparency and vulnerability and honesty. What a great platform to do that and connect heart to heart with people. There's nothing better. What I'll leave is everybody with a quote, and not a quote just for the sake of a quote, but a quote that you should really break down, put in your mirror, and execute on it every day. Give without expectation, receive without resistance. And what that means is when you give without expectation, you're not giving from a place of pleasing and enabling another human being or people. You're giving from empathy and kindness. There's a difference. You're giving from being the example and being a resource for others to help themselves. And when it comes back from somewhere else, as long as it serves you in any capacity, your well-being, your relationships, your business, your wealth, whatever it is, as long as it serves you, receive it without resistance. Because when you reject, you don't have to do that for me. What you're doing is you're rebuffing the universe and the laws of prosperity, that what you've given out and that comes back, you're rebuffing, pushing it back. So you're not serving yourself and you're not serving other people, because that energy repeats itself and helps other people around you. So think of it like a boomerang. What you give comes back if you allow it and trust the process. But if it doesn't serve you, that's different. If it's something that's going to work against you, that, you don't take, but give without expectation, receive without resistance.
I have to confess something, my friend. I was giving without expectation for many years, but I was resisting receiving for many years as well.
I was like that as that passive side was very, very similar. Like a lot of times I would rebuff the small things in life. And when you think about life, it's the small things that matter that lead to bigger and better things. That's what life is all about. So I don't care if you find a penny on the ground, pick it up and put it in your pocket, because that penny can turn into a lot more. And if somebody has to maybe down on their luck, I'm not saying you go out of your way just to give money, but give where applicable, but be an example. Help them to help themselves. That's what solves problems and creates solutions, not just giving to enable them and please them to keep them stagnant and stuck. So I'm all about, inspiring people through my example. I got to fill my cup every day if I'm going to be an example in any role that I hold in my life, as a husband, father, a business owner, a coach, a speaker, a member of my community. It doesn't matter. I gotta be always aware that to be a man of those values and be an example of that and be resourceful as much as I can.
Perfect. I really enjoyed our interview, my friend. This was Christopher Salem, everybody. This is Fabulous with Fabio here at Fabio Marques 007, a YouTube channel, and a Powerful Insights for Business in our podcast. Thank you so much once again, and I hope to see you soon, my friend.